Well, hello, welcome to another painting with Jasmine Rempel Art. Today I'm creating a watercolor card and I'm going to use a wet on wet technique to create blooms of flowers within flower buckets. I have Strathmore Watercolor card, 140 pound cold pressed. It's adhered to a little piece of, actually it's an acrylic canvas I've adhered it to so that a board. It's a board that I have painted black acrylic paint on. I find this works well for when I want to turn my paintings, watercolors, to run the color. I've adhered it with some white painter's tape, and that creates a nice little white border around the card, and it keeps the card from buckling while I'm painting. Here I have my paints. They are all Winsor Newton professional level. You could use any level of paints that you want to. I've created many of these cards with Winsor Newton Cotman student level paints, and they've worked well too. I have permanent rose. I have a deep purple. This is Prussian blue and ultramarine. This is sap green, viridian green. This is Prussian blue and sap green, and Prussian blue and viridian green. I may not use all these greens, but I mixed them up just so they're available. I have some kosher salt ready to go. I'll show you that. I just keep it in a little container. Kosher salt has very thick, large grains of salt, and I like the effects. I have some paper towel ready to dab my brush on, and I have a little container of water. In fact, I have 2 containers of water ready so that when one is dirty, I have a nice clean one available. All right, so I'm going to start by wetting my background. I have here a flat wash brush. It's a 1-inch Prussian Velvet Touch. You could really use any brush you wanted just to apply water to this card. That's what I'm about to do. Now, the amount of water that you put on the card matters. And in fact, I just remembered that I don't have my light on for you. So I'm going to get my light ready. Pardon me for a moment. All right, that really helps. Good. All right, back to it. I am putting water, saturating the entire surface of this card. I want it quite wet in order to create the effects that I'm after for the blooms, the flower blooms. So the way I can describe how wet this is that the entire surface has a lovely sheen to it. You can see that sheen, but there are no puddles gathering. I can see that my paper is beginning to absorb the water because it is rising. It's expanding. All right, that is nice and wet as I want it to be. And what I'm going to do now is I'm using a round number 8 brush, and I'm going to drop color into this, onto this surface. So I've just wet my brush, and I'm going to go into this permanent rose, and I'm just going to tap in some colors. I'm imagining them to be little bunches of flowers here and there. I'm wanting these flowers to be in little clusters, bleeding out. It's okay if they're near the top, but I don't want them near the bottom because that is where I'm going to be creating some containers. Cleaning my brush, and I'm going now into this nice deep purple, and I'm going to do the very same thing. Just tapping in some color quite loosely here and there, letting it bleed out. This is more of an intuitive process. I don't aim to control it, and I don't aim to have, I don't have a picture in my mind of what this is going to look like when it's done. I work with it as I go. You can see there's some bleeding down, and that's all right. Okay, now I'm heading into this blue mixture. I'm tapping in some blues. It's starting to dry here, so I'm just cleaning off my brush, and I'm going to add some water to just encourage the color to spread out. I don't want hard edges at all at this point. All right, now I'm going to tap in a little bit of green in the odd place, giving the impression of some foliage. And use another green. This is my sap green viridian mix. And into the viridian. Okay, that's good. It's all bleeding and blending nicely. And what I'm going to do now is get my salt, and I'm going to sprinkle salt randomly on this piece and let it dry naturally. While it's drying, I'm actually going to work on another one. So I will do that with you. I have another surface prepared right here. And I will get it wet. I think I will do exactly what I did before, but it will turn out quite a bit different, as you'll see, because you can't control where the color goes. So there will be 2 unique cards with similar colors when I'm all done. Again, just wetting the surface, letting that paper absorb some of the water. I'll check for the sheen now. Lovely. My whole surface is nice and wet. It tends to dry out fairly quickly, as you saw on the last card, around the edges. So with wet and wet, you tend to need to work fairly quickly. All right, this time I'll do the same thing. I'll start with my blue. This is a diluted mixture. It has water in it. Okay, and heading into the purple. Nice watery mix of purple. I'm aiming, as you can see, each time I drop on a little bit of color, it bleeds out into these lovely blossoms, really. And that's exactly what I want. I want them to bleed out, burst forward into bloom. Okay, let's go into the pink, permanent rose. And little touches. These are basically going to become bouquets of flowers. I call them bouquets of blessings. Okay, good. Feel like I would like a little more blue. And let's go into my greens. Add some touches. I tend to add them to the edge of the bouquets. And of course a little bit in the center here and there. Because when you see a bouquet, you very often see that one's already got a sharp edge, and that's okay. Maybe even do a couple on purpose. Okay, clean off that brush. Just going to lift this a little bit. It's bugging me. There we go. Okay, into that viridian, and I think I'll add some of this Prussian blue mixture in there and get a nice deep green. Just tap that in here and there. Little surprise leaves. All right. A few more greens. And all right, that's enough. Time to put the salt on. I'm just sprinkling it, honestly, just everywhere. And time to let this dry naturally. Okay, well, here we go. Here is the effects of the salt on one of the cards. I'll zoom in for you to see a little closer. It definitely looks like a whole bunch of little white flowers in the midst of other blooms. And I'll show you another one. There's another one. And while these were drying, I took the liberty of painting another one and used a bit of yellow in it. Turned out quite beautiful. And so I'm going to start to work with this. There's lots of salt on here, and so I'm taking my rubber cement eraser and I'm just going to, I don't actually think it's an eraser, it might be, this rubber cement square. It's excellent for lifting masking fluid, and it rubs off salt. And I'll just tap that salt into the garbage. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is paint in some containers. I'm reaching for a graphite pencil, and I'll draw in a couple containers first. Here I see sort of a bunch of flowers here and a bunch here, and so I'll make 2 containers. One starting in here, just curving that, and curving it at the base, and another one beside it. Maybe a little bit bigger, this one. Okay, good. Now I will get my eraser, and I'm just going to tap out. Now that I know where I'm putting these lines, I don't want them so dark. I'm just going to fade those out a bit and paint inside of them. I have here, I think this brush should work. That's a number 6. I think it will fit well within these containers. If I feel it's too big, I will go down to my number 4 round. So I have a number 6 and a number 4 handy. Okay, to do these, actually I'm just reaching for the number 4. To do these, I like to get the inside of the container wet. And then I like to tap in color. I'm going around these colors in a kind of a bumpy way so that they'll read as foliage and flowers. Okay, good. Now I think I will use blue. It'll be a blue container. And I will have my shadow going this way, so I will tap in the right side, this blue, and let it bleed out. Tapping in that color. And I'm cleaning my brush, and I'm going to continue to pull the color, but it's going to be a lot lighter because I have more water in my brush. And what's going to happen is it's going to gradate, become lighter as it goes along. Pop some more, that deeper pigment in here. And let it bleed out. I'm even going to tip it. Good. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of the purple just on this tips, on this edge. Pretty. And I want to pull more of that hue over here. There. Looks quite light on one side and a lot deeper on the other. Coaxing it over gently. There. Nice. All right. There is one pot. Now I'm going to do another one. And again, I'm going to get it all wet inside the pot. I can see a faint, I can see my line, so I'm working within it. You might not see my line as well. Okay. I think I will choose maybe pink for this pot. Let that bleed in. Give the impression of a leaf here and here. Might be a flower in there. Bump it around a bit around this edge. Another leaf. Okay. And I think I will add some blue to that. Let the blue and the pink mix a bit. So pretty. And turn. Let it bleed down a little, and I'll pull it, persuade it to go all the way. Maybe add a little more quite diluted pink. There we go. Just gives the pot some form when one side has shadow and one side's lighter. I like that. Now I'm wanting to create a shadow coming on this edge here. I want to make sure it's mostly dry, and it does seem to be. So I'm just thinking about it for a minute. I don't want this. I'm actually going to blow dry this. Please excuse the noise. Okay, that edge is dry. All right, so to create the shadow, I am going to mix some purple with this blue. And I'm actually going into my Prussian blue on my palette. And I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. That's creating a green, but with more purple, it'll look more of a gray. There we go. Okay. the yellow was the complementary color of the purple in there, and so what it does is it dulls that color, and now I've got a nice shadow color. So I'm just going to run this brush along the edge here, and it's got a lot of wet paint in it, which is great, and I'm going to pull that out. Circular form. Okay, and then I'm cleaning my brush, and I'm going to have, my brush is just water at this point, and what's going to happen is I'm just going to let that shadow bleed out like so. Tapping more of this intense color to here. Encouraging it to go out a little more. Good. Okay, that's fine. Once it's dry, I might fuss with it a little more. All right, another shadow. I will use the same shadow color, but I will add more pink to it. There we go. Same thing, cleaning my brush. Now it just has water. This one is actually going to reach and blend in with this pot. Now they appear to be resting on a surface in the sunshine. Okay, how pretty is that? Sometimes I add more detail within the floral, within the flowers. Sometimes I'll add more leaves, or I'll use watercolor markers and add more flowers inside, but I like the way this looks. It's quite fresh. I think I'm going to leave it like this for now, and I'm going to, on time-lapse, work on my other one. Before I do, I see a little problem. I'm going to correct this by lifting up some of that paint. There we go. Okay, time lapse for the next. Okay, so here we have a second pot of flowers with a couple of shadows. And for this one, I think I'm going to add some extra leaves, or define a few more leaves. So I'm going into my sap green and just going to, like so, let it bleed out into the bush. And another here. on just the odd leaf shape. Letting it blend into the bush a little bit. Now some of my original color is all mixed up, so I will add a few darker leaves as well. One there, one here. That one is so dark, it's drawing our eye up there, so I actually am going to lighten that quite a bit. I don't want that to be my focal point. That's better. Okay, now I'm going to take some pink and give the impression of a fallen flower. Maybe a couple of them that have fallen here. And some of the purple. Maybe a flower has fallen here. And then go into the green. Give those flowers a leaf. Pretty. Okay. Now, another thing I do sometimes is splatter paint. Just to add something to the edges, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to sign this and call this good to go. So I have my rigger brush, go into one of my darker value colors and just JR it, Jasmine Rumple. And let's peel it back. Nice. Here we have a little card that would be quite nice to give someone for their birthday, Easter, or really for anything at all. Now I'm going to get my other one that I started, and I'm going to pop in a few flowers as well. That nice deep purple. Maybe a flower fell there, and maybe a pinkish one fell here. And another. And into the green. A couple of leaves. A little bit in the center of the flower. Let's do a pink one over here. The leaf. lighten up one side a little bit, even though it's in the shadow. And once these leaves are dry, I will give them a little cast shadow, leaves and flowers. And I'm going to sign this one with a purple-blue mixture. JR. And quickly dry these flowers. Good. And right under the flowers, I want to just put a little cast shadow. Carefully drag it out a bit. There we go. Almost there. That makes it look a little more realistic. Whoa, that was a lot darker than I intended. It's okay, dilute it a bit. Even lift some. There, I've lifted it all up. Try again, take two. That's better. Pull it out. Nice. Zoom you in a bit so you see what I'm up to here. They're very dark flowers in there, but of course they're sitting in the shadow, so they should be dark. Okay, pull out, and let's pull off the tape. There we go. Bouquets of blessings. I have two beautiful cards to give someone. And I think next time I do a tutorial, I'll take it from a finished one and I'll add some of the flowers I like to do with the watercolor markers. But for now, this is very pretty. Two bouquets of blessings. Thank you so much for joining me as I've painted today. I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and I hope you experiment with this technique and have fun. You can follow me on Instagram at Jasmine Rempel Art. You can leave a comment here. I'd love that. And please like and subscribe. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm new at this. And any encouragement I receive is lovely. Happy painting. All the best.